back to the patriarchs or
Proselytes.
or to the sojourners.
Yeah, the strangers, the sojourners, the resident aliens that were called. What does it say? Does it say that were called anything, or doesn't it say that?
Mixed blood.
Ah, so he's actually translating ger as mixed blood residents. Thanks. So that's a different translation, but that certainly is helpful to us in a way. Thanks a lot for reading that. So this, he introduces a favorite topic of his, the Desposyni. And they are the family of Jesus. And we don't usually in Christianity hear much about the Desposyni. But they are the family of Jesus, and he says that they still preserve their genealogical records. And he says, too, that they came from two villages, one Nazareth and the other Kokava. So, two villages. Now, I don't know if he's got this right, because these are two messianic type names, Nazareth, Nazarene, Nazarene, and so on. Kohava is star. So it's, Nazareth often means plant or root. So it's plant village, star village. I'm not sure that we can say there were two villages in Judea, he says these were called. These were. So the families of Jesus came from these villages, Nazareth and Kohava, which have messianic sounding names. But it is, and they took these genealogies to all parts of the world. Where is he getting this from? He says on the bottom of that section, thus far Africanus. So who's he getting that information from? A source called Julius Africanus. Julius, who was from North Africa. He's culling it from, we had more from Julius Africanus about Herod's genealogy. So this is Julius Africanus is his source here, and that's good. He gives us a source. So he's not pulling this out of whole cloth. He's getting it from previous sources, and what he gets from previous sources is usually pretty good. They followed these genealogies and daily records as close as they could. I have a footnote that I think Desposyni comes from the word master or Lord, or belonging to the Lord. Despot, I think, comes from the same word in English, interestingly enough. But, so someone who lords it over someone else. Of course, this doesn't mean despot here. Okay, Herod's cruelty to the infants, chapter 8. So anyway, before we do that, then the genealogies are uncertain, he says, because Herod burned them all. Does that make sense? I think that would possibly be the case. Herod was pretty vicious, and he might have done that too, for the reasons said. But he says the Desposyni keep working. So normally we don't think of Jesus' family. So now, and we hear they come from Nazareth and Kohava. Now Kohava is a village in Lebanon to this day. It's called Kaukaba in Arabic. Kaukaba in Arabic is the same as Kohava in Hebrew. There is a village in southern Lebanon called Kaukaba. That may be what they were talking about. But he says it was in Judea, so I don't know. Many Arab villages do keep the old names. Even if you look careful enough, you can find the old Hebrew Roman names underneath them. And there is a town in southern Lebanon called Kaukaba. There's a lot of fighting between Israelis and Lebanese that go around that town. It's a hotbed of where terrorists like to hang out to attack northern Israel and so on. But there is such a town. I don't know if it is the one he's talking about. Also, Kohava seems to have been a place near where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. Down by Jericho, there was a place, I think, called Kohava. I think that's probably the one he's talking about. And they say Bar Kokhba came from there, which is why he was also called Bar Kokhba, because he came from Kohava, which would say that Bar Kokhba is a relative of the Jesus family, possibly too. Do I think that that's true? Yeah, I think they probably all were interrelated. The relationships were probably much more close in those days, smaller population, and probably much more genealogical relationships. So if we are really talking about such a town, now who was Bar Kokhba? We mentioned him last time. Let's just review who he was again. He was the person who led the uprising against Rome, son of the star again, in 132 to 136, the second Jewish uprising. And he was later either taken to Rome as captive and killed, or killed in the fighting. I think he was killed in the fighting at a town outside of Bethlehem. I think it was called Betar. And you can actually go today outside Bethlehem and find that town, and it has an Arab name, Pitzer or something like that. So the names do stick, even over 20 centuries. This battle where Bar Kokhba was defeated by Hadrian's forces. Hadrian brought the general in from Britain called Severus or someone. He defeated the Bar Kokhba forces at this battle. So it's not far from Bethlehem, outside of Jerusalem. I would say about 10 miles out south of Jerusalem or something like that. So Bar Kokhba was a very serious uprising, but we don't have a Josephus to document it, so we don't know it as intimately as we know the first uprising. But its end was more even devastating than the first uprising, because it was after that Jewish life in Palestine became untenable. So 2 successive waves of uprising, and I assume they were popular because the people participated in them. So people say the Pharisees again were the popular party. I don't think that they have that right. Okay, more from the antiquities, Herod's cruelty here. He tells the whole story of Herod's death here. He gets the Magi story from the Gospels mixed with the story of Herod's death. You know the story of the Magi more or less in the Gospels. Let's look at Herod's death story here. Towards the end of his life, again, he says it's from Josephus, and he says it's from the Antiquities that he's picking this up. 17th book of the Antiquities, you know, he's fair. That story is certainly there in our version of the Antiquities today. Herod's disease towards the end of his life became daily more virulent. He was punishing him, being punished for his crimes. It was wasting him, it was a slow fire, and so on and so forth. You see, Josephus has tremendous detail. His feet were swellings, there was inflammation, blah, 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 putrefaction. I guess if you're a doctor, you can figure out what he died from. It might be interesting if someone has some medical background to figure out what his problem was. But they used to go across Jordan.